Hey, welcome to CS Connect. My name's Mike. This is Pat.
This is Diana.
And today we're talking about what irrigates you and what irritates you. Hey, so we were talking about the concept of in life that there are things that just fill us up and there are things that drain us. And I was sharing with you guys, I'm really trying to be more aware of that. And it just got us talking about how much we're all doing that.
Yeah.
And how helpful of a conversation that would be that we have with people.
Yeah.
It's so critical. Like, I think the days when you get halfway through and you're like, man, today's just a hard day. Today's not good. I've started processing, well, what have you done today that's either added to that or kind of helped you stay in that rut you don't want to stay in?
Yeah.
And so I think maybe being aware of what fills us up and what kind of drains us is key.
Well, it's so good that you're saying that you're doing that partway through a day, because the danger sometimes is weeks and months go by and we're slowly getting drained, and all of a sudden we crash and burn. And there's a lot of us that have those stories where we crash and burn hard because we weren't just checking days, but again, long periods of time goes by and then we're done.
And I think what's interesting is Pat, to your point, we do this well, like with our kids. We know what kind of irritates them and we try and shelter them from those things, or we know what brings joy into their day and we try and expose them to those things. Or even in our jobs, I think a lot of us are blessed with leaders who help us delegate things or get things off our plate that we absolutely hate to do because they want us to be successful and they want us to find happiness in our job.
Yeah.
But then in our personal lives, it's like we don't often think about this. Yeah. We just let our spiritual life or even the human part of our life that's just normal of our day, we just let it happen, and we see where we land at the end of the day and how our gas tank is. Are we empty or are we full? And we go to bed frustrated or feeling okay.
Kind of like we're helpless to control it.
That's right.
I think John 10:10, we were talking about this, says, Jesus himself, he says these words. He says that he's come to give us life and life to the full. That's part of what he's saying there. Right. Where God cares about like our days. He cares about that in the midst of it.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to what you said and tied into John 10, when you were talking about, you know what feeds your kids or gives your kids energy and excitement, but that's different for all of us, right? Which shows, again, our personalities are different. What drains you may not drain you, or what drains me may not drain you. And so it's just like with our kids or our spouse or coworkers, we got to figure that out with everyone, but we have to figure it out with ourselves.
That's right. Not all scenarios and situations are equal in terms of what drains us.
Yeah.
And so, Diana, you were talking about the idea of a cup and a hole in the bottom. I thought that was like visually helpful.
Yeah.
Or was that Pat? Maybe?
That was Pat, yeah.
The idea of like water leaking out. And the truth is we do leak, right? It takes energy. It takes even spiritual. It takes things spiritually in us that are exhausted by certain scenarios that we're faced with. And so understanding those things allows us to live the John 10 life, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that analogy, that cup, because you're pouring stuff in and that's what gives you energy. But there's holes on the bottom of that cup, and we all have them in our life. But again, what the hole in your cup may be different than yours. Yeah. And if you don't figure that out, and you don't figure out what's draining you, and especially whatever's draining, if it's draining faster than you're filling it up, that's where we crash and burn, which is really cool, where you're saying that you've learned to almost on a daily basis to check.
Yeah. So let's be real concrete. I think like we're talking abstractly, but maybe this will help you watching. What are some of those things that kind of drain you or maybe fill you up on a practical sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's like when I get into a mode of I'm having to live a very routine life, it exhausts me. And so for other people, it's funny how that's like fills them up. Like, man, I know exactly what to expect. My wife and I are different in this capacity, but for me, I just lose my soul when my days are the same day after day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I'm exactly like that. I'm the same way. Yeah, for sure. Another one for me though is I've found for energy is being out in nature. That if it's been a while since I've been able to go on a hike or when I'm out there just sitting on a rock and just looking at the sky and the clouds and hearing the birds and the bees, all those things, that when I don't get to do that, I slowly start getting drained. Yeah.
I think for me, I've had to pay attention to what input is coming in. Like, what am I watching? What am I listening to? What am I reading? And there are times when I can tell, hey, you're just watching. You're on social media too much and it's starting to cause comparison, or it's starting to kind of drain you a little bit, to ask questions that God's not asking you. Or this is kind of silly, but I have a job where I love to think and I love to create things. And part of what fills my soul is I just need these random things to learn about that have nothing to do with anything I have to produce or create.
Right.
So for those who love to think, that's something I've found. I need a hobby that I don't have to do anything with. I just
Yeah.
get to learn.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, what we're talking about is what Jesus said, that there's a thief that comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's, as you said, there's killers and stealers that happen every day in our life. And we're just becoming aware of them, right? We're just saying, Jesus, help us see these things so that we can go watch a random documentary that'll fill us back up, And so, what's the advice, Diana? You were talking a little bit yesterday about this, but what's the advice for us as we're thinking through this to make our list and be aware of these moments? How do we do that?
I think for everybody watching today, this would be so helpful. What if you just start to become aware of there are things that are filling you up or draining you? Are you sleeping in too much? Are you staying up too late? Are you eating junk food too much? Not that it's bad, but you're watching these practical actions that God's given us permission to make choices about and control. They're either kind of adding to your hard day and emptying you, or they're filling you up. Do you need to put some great music on? Do you need to put a puzzle together? Do you need to call somebody that you love? What are the practical actions that God's given you permission to take that you can take today? So make a list to start to be aware of, staying up late too many days in a row drains you.
Yep.
Watching crap TV too much drains you, or whatever that might be for you.
Yeah, that's good.
Good.
So thanks for tuning in today. We hope this is helpful. We hope you'll realize that God has uniquely wired you and that you have a chance to discover the life that Jesus has for you by being aware of the moments and the situations that you're faced with. Have an awesome day.